I attended a Shabbat service at Congregation Beth Shalom. This is located in Bryan, Texas. The service I attended was on October 10th at 7:30 p.m. These Shabbat services occur every second and fourth Friday of every month. When I arrived at Congregation Beth Shalom, I expected something very different from what I saw. I grew up in a Christian church, and I figured things would be much different. The inside of the synagogue looked much like a church I was used to. There was a parlor when you walked in, and then you walked through the doors into the sanctuary. The service was, however, very different from what I had expected. Fortunately, I saw many things I was expecting to see, like a prayer book, the Torah, and a rabbi giving a sermon. It was interesting to hear everyone pray from the prayer book because it was in Hebrew, and I had never heard people talk in Hebrew. I was also excited to see everyone's reaction to the Torah when it was brought into the room. If I know anything about the Jewish religion, I know that the Torah is very sacred to their religion. The rabbi kept me very interested even though he was talking in Hebrew. I loved listening to him speak. A couple of things that were unexpected to me were the absence of someone to greet me at the door and the group discussion after the sermon. I felt very lost walking into congregation at Beth Shalom without anyone to greet me or show me where to go. Thankfully, I arrived with a few other people and I just followed them into the synagogue. I also did not expect the group discussion after the sermon. People were just talking out loud in the synagogue and having a complete discussion with the rabbi. I learned quite a bit throughout this experience. I had never been to a Jewish service, and it was very interesting. I learned about the Torah and how sacred it is to the Jewish religion. I learned about the prayer books and how the prayers are read in Hebrew. I enjoyed the nosh and the different foods served after the sermon. They were all unfamiliar foods, but they all tasted great. As I entered congregation at Beth Shalom, I felt very out of place. I also did not know where to sit once I entered the synagogue, so I just stood around for a little bit and watched other people sit and gather with family and friends. I felt awkward as I stood there until a couple came and asked me if I would like to sit with them, which made me feel much better. As we sat, they began to tell me all about the Shabbat service and what would happen, which put my nervousness at ease. This experience will affect how I teach in a much positive way. It gave me the utmost appreciation for another culture that could possibly be in my future classroom. It is so important that every student feels welcomed and safe in the classroom in order to learn. I will now teach with this culture in mind and take into careful consideration of all cultures when creating lesson plans. I want all of my students to feel comfortable with the lessons and never out of place. This experience will affect my interactions with my colleagues because I can now relate to people I may work with of a different culture. I now understand the Jewish religion and how important the Jewish faith is to them.